How's it going, everybody? This is Daryl Bonilla. As you know, I do these little Beyond Paradise conversations with former cast members, just talking about our experiences, our time making this movie way back when, but the fact that it still has an audience to this day. And today is pretty cool because I am joined by the man behind it all, the man who this was his vision, his story, and his hard work and dedication brought this film to the world. And I'm honored to be talking story with him. Please welcome the director of Beyond Paradise, David Cunningham. What's going on, David?
How's it, Daryl? Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate it.
No. Thank you again for taking time out. I know you have a very busy schedule, so coming on, this is pretty cool. Um, so I guess I just want to start off talking about how Beyond Paradise as a story, as a concept, first developed for you. Because I know some people think it's autobiographical or based on some events and stuff like that. So I wanted to get it from you on what brought Beyond Paradise as a whole to your life and to the world.
Sure. Well, there's parts of the story that are full on autobiographical, in particular the three boys. You know, you played Cal and Zulu, and so those guys are based upon my best friends growing up, and I in fact dedicated the movie to them at the end. You can see in the credits. And these were three Hawaiians that took me in and took care of me and were loyal to me. And I was really touched by that when they didn't have to be. And it was pretty rough in the 80s being a haole boy on the Big Island, Konoena High School. And these guys took me in, and I'm forever grateful. And they went on to be my dearest of friends in my wedding and all that. So yeah, so that part, the whole Mark Thompson of it all was made up. Like I grew up in Hawaii, um, moved to Kona when I was four years old. Before that, we were Hilo side when I was three. I wasn't born here, but really don't remember anything else. So the Big Island's been home, and I always wanted to be a filmmaker. Didn't know anybody was a filmmaker. Didn't know how to go about it. And you got to remember, Hawaii Island back in the 70s was the boonies. You know, we had like one funky cinema and it had lice. You know, later we got another one and it improved. But this was such a crazy dream to be a filmmaker. But I heard there was a thing called film school, and I fought my way into film school and eventually went to USC in LA. And after that, wanted to make a movie. And I think I was like 25, 26 years old, so young pup. And I was like, well, what should my first movie be about? I was like, I think it should be about something I really know and I care about. And that's growing up in Hawaii. And so that was the genesis of it was, well, okay, let's go about something that I know. And then it was a massive journey. It was about 3 years of my life to make Beyond Paradise. And it was really rough. Like everything could go wrong, went wrong the entire time. And I can tell you any kind of stories you want to hear about what was happening before you guys joined me, and then the journey afterwards and all of that. But it wasn't an easy process, and it was my film school for sure.
And that's the interesting part because some of the conversations I've had with some of the other cast members, what we talked about was even though this was a lot of work and you were doing a lot of stuff on set, we didn't even know that. You know, you led a fun set, a light set, a very giving set that a lot of us still talk about today. That's still one of our best experiences. And for me, that was the first time ever in a movie and so that kind of spoiled me. So after that, all sets needed to be like that, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Oh, thanks, Daryl. I appreciate that. Well, you guys are great. You guys showed up. Everybody's grateful to be there. And we really scored with the cast, and wanted to make it work. And I knew the kinds of people I was looking for based upon my friends and my experience. And when you guys walked in the room, I remember when you walked in the room, Daryl, and you left, and I was looking at our casting director. I think you came in and you read for something else first, right? Do you read
No,
for another?
I came in for Keao and Ronnie Boy, and I just read the Menehune scene for Keao, and that was it. So I never got a chance to read for Ronnie Boy. I remember thinking and going, "Hey, wow, I never get to read for anything else." I just read that one scene
Oh
of the
yeah,
Menehunes, and then I was out. So and then that was it. That's all I got to
yeah.
do. So I
Right after
probably tanked
that.
it.
No, no, you nailed it. And right after you walked out, I was looking at the casting director. We both looked at each other like, okay, that one was easy. We found him. And the humor you brought to him, and still kind of a little bit of a street edge. There was parts that you brought that wasn't in the script, and even some of the improv stuff that you did that ended up becoming so iconic, super fun. But yeah, so that you guys brought it and really helped the tone on the set to keep it real but yeah, behind the scenes, it was rough. I was still raising money while we were shooting. This was one of the first independent movies made in Hawaii. I don't think I think it was the very first for Big Island for sure. So people didn't know what a small independent movie was. So the Teamster Union thought I was lying to them that we were making this little movie and like for $750,000, which sounds like a lot now, but back then, plus we were shooting with celluloid film and all that. But yeah, the Teamsters thought we were full of it and we were trying to pull one over them. And they were coming after us. Finally, we won them over. And we had a lot of people working in the crew that knew what they were doing, but we had a lot of people that also didn't know what they were doing. And I was one of them. I was learning on the job. And but yeah, it was a wild experience. And we had these cameras that we had to get were pretty cheap because we couldn't afford other ones. And I don't know if you remember this, Daryl, but we had a malfunction and there was a light leak in the camera, which basically exposed the film. So it would wreck like an entire day of shooting. And because we had to send the celluloid to Los Angeles, get it developed, and get sent back because it's again before digital video. So 3 days there, 3 days, and then by the time we get them, we're like, it's ruined. We got to shoot that day again. So we had to go back. We had to shoot that day again. And then we sent the film back. Same thing happened. They had told us the camera was fixed. So we did some scenes 2 or 3 times. And I was just dying, like going, oh my gosh, we don't have the money for this. What are we gonna do? And so it was a pretty wild what was happening behind the scenes, back in the day. Yeah.
And you talked about the casting process, and you kind of mentioned what you kind of was looking for in your actors for these specific roles. Um, And I just was curious if you can kind of, at least for like, the four guys and for Lehua, like you mentioned a little bit about me bringing like the humor there, but what was some of the things you saw from Lorenzo, from Kalani, Priscilla, and even from Roy that made you kind of lean towards them as that's my Ronnie boy, that's my Zulu.
Well, it just came all back to my friends and people that I was inspired by and I was trying to look for, like that kind of person, that kind of quality. So when Lorenzo came in, you know, ripped guy, good looking, smart. You could tell he was smart, but he was also street aware. And that was really my friend Donald Boy that we based him off of. Like Donald Boy was like a Mike Tyson So the crew that ran with me, there was four of us that we all went through high school together, and I had a truck, and we all kind of shared the truck. We'd wash it together, like in the movie, and we got jobs together, bagging groceries, and then stock clerk at KTA. And I was kind of like the face man, like I help the guys get the applications and get the jobs. Donald Boy, who's Ronnie was like was the muscle. Like he was a scrapper, and you do not mess with him. And he was a sweet, gentle guy, but if you flip the switch on that guy, he'd knock you out. So he was all the muscle. So when we'd be surfing or whatever, someone dropped in on me, he'd paddle up, hey, the hell is me, leave him alone, that kind of thing. And then the role that you played, Kiao, was based upon my friend Garrett, who was the clown, and I mean that in a good way. Like he could make you laugh so hard, and was always keeping things light and would bring the humor to the situation. And then Zulu, who Kalani played, had all these brothers, like just everywhere he went, there was a brother somewhere. I think he had like 12 brothers. And so he was like the mafia connection, like just everywhere we went, he'd have the hookups. And he was also a lot of fun. But that was kind of the role he played, was wherever we cruised, he knew somebody and was related to somebody. Um, Roy was kind of based upon my observation of high schoolers, like when they would transfer from the mainland, specifically California, they would transfer into our high school, and they were just thrown. Like they were just like, what is this place? And those that tried to bring California with them failed. And those that came in with humility and I'm in a different place and a different culture, they did okay. And I would just watch that contrast. And so that was based on that. And then Priscilla was based upon a good friend of ours who the boys always loved her. They were always after her. She was pretty, she was funny, she was smart. And she got pregnant while we were in high school together. And at the time, Konoina had one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the nation. And I think one of the lowest SATs in the nation, so it was yeah, kind of sad. So plenty of girls were getting their diploma high, it was just a trip. And so one day outside of bagging groceries and at KTA, she told me that she was pregnant, and I was like a brother to her, and was close with her brother. And she said, she was crying, and she says, "Are you angry?" I said, "No, I'm disappointed for you, but we're gonna be here with you." And she ended up having twins, actually. And that changed her whole life, of course, as an 18-year-old having twins in high school. So yeah, so that's what it was all based upon, and I really wanted to do this to honor my friendships and the loyalty. That's one thing, I don't think people in Hawaii talk about enough. Like that they don't really understand enough is the deep loyalty that people have here in terms of friendships. And I think that's such an amazing quality. And I remember my first few days in college in California, and I sat in the back, and I was tripping out. I was like, "Wow, look at all these howlies here! There's so many howlies, you know." And it was just that perspective of growing up as a minority here, I think allowed me to appreciate the culture in a significant way.
And did any of them get to see the final product? And if so, I mean, what was their reaction to seeing kind of their inspiration on screen and played by these young actors?
They were stoked. They were stoked, And the boys are all kind of low key about it. I still every now and then connect up, and but they were all stoked. And um, I think a lot of that would have been a bummer if they weren't,
Yeah.
But the fact that this thing it just keeps going, I think you probably know Daryl, but they played this movie in the public schools here. And I don't know if they still do it, but at one point they had a test that you would take after the film. And someone gave me the test, asking all the questions about these decisions and all of that. And so, yeah, it's a trip because when we finished that film, it was Finished Beyond Paradise. It was well received here, but people in the mainland didn't get it at all. And I got turned down a million times and by distributors. And no, we got in some film festivals and all of that, but no one understood it. They didn't think there was an audience for it. So we ended up going to the theater owners directly and making individual deals and to theaters throughout Hawaii, and then hustled, printed up flyers and hand them around parks and just we did. You probably remember we sponsored some parties and we're on the radio and we did everything ourselves. We made the posters ourselves and the trailers. We, like I said, we booked the theaters, all of that. And then it ran for a couple months. And that was when Matrix first came out.
Yeah.
And in some theaters we were neck to neck with Matrix, so that was super fun. And that eventually allowed us to prove to distributors that there was an audience and get some DVD deals and get some foreign deals. And but yeah, it was a lot of work all the way through. So it was crazy just recently. Maybe you saw Daryl, someone it's now up legitimately on YouTube, but for a little bit it was illegitimately up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Someone threw them up and
And
it
and
hit 3
and
million.
both and had both versions too up on
Oh
YouTube.
yeah.
We had the
Oh
theatrical
yeah.
and then the DVD release. Both was
Okay.
up.
Well, that one, was black market. And what was awesome was we had 3 million views. Like what, how many years later? Like 25, 30
Yeah.
years. I don't even know how many years it's been. A long time.
Yeah,
So
it would come in waves, like the audience. So like when the movie first came out, you had a lot of people going, "Hey, that movie! I saw that movie," and then it left the theaters. Then the DVD came out. Then a whole new audience started discovering the movie, and then after, as that faded out, then all of a sudden, like you said, I started getting the new wave of people who was discovering it on YouTube. And then once social media came about, then the clips started kind of popping up and on
yeah.
TikTok and all this kind of stuff. And then I would always get tagged whenever somebody would see that, so that I would see it too.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, it's so fun to see. Gets a new life and how people appreciate it. And to this day, people either get it or they really don't get it. Just recently, I was at my mom's house and she like lives in a subdivision and the neighbors were chatting and they didn't know I was walking to my car afterwards. And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, her son made that movie Beyond Paradise, made the locals look really bad. And it's like a B movie, like full on slamming it. And they were Howley transplants that haven't been in Hawaii very long, like just didn't get it at all. That no, no, this wasn't a diss. This was to honor. And it's just really interesting who gets it and why they get it. And so yeah, it's been amazing. And I got so much favor from this movie. I've made like 14 movies now. In Hawaii, I'm still like people get most impressed that I made that one, maybe on
Yeah. And he's like, "What? I get these out of movies."
yeah, yeah. Like I did some other ones. So I've done four movies in Hawaii now. And
Yeah.
that was the first one, of course.
And I gotta say, like me being as an actor, like I didn't. My only goals was to be in a movie in a pretty decent sized role and get to watch it with my family. That was one goal. And then the
Mm.
other goal was just to make a second movie, just so that I wouldn't be the guy that was only in the one movie. And thanks to you, you made that happen. You made them all happen because I got Beyond Paradise, the film festival. I got to watch it with all my family there, which was, and I remember having that kind of moment where I going, wow, this is what I was
Yeah.
looking forward to. And so I got to experience that. And then when you made Two End All Wars, I was lucky enough to have you let me audition, get a small role in it. And I was like, there we go. I got my second movie.
I would have gotten everybody on there, but that was a POW movie,
Yeah, yeah.
And you were a pretty skinny guy, so I
Yeah, I
was
remember
like,
I was like, oh, can you get more skinny? I go, more skinny. I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
you bet. No, I enjoy it, man. And I wish, movies they take forever to make. They're so hard to make. It took me a year full time to raise the money for Beyond Paradise. And we rented out our apartment, slept on our friend's floor. My wife Judy went to work as a waitress. I got a bunch of credit cards and I traveled all over the place begging people for money. We ended up with 27 investors from 6 states and 6 countries, everybody kicking in. I think today you would call it more like crowdfunding.
And you was
And
just what, 25 when you directed that, correct? Around that
at
age?
25, 26,
Yeah, so you was kind of like, because we were like, I was 21. I think the other guys was like 22, 25. So we were all kind of in the
yeah,
same age range, and we was having this experience together.
yeah, I think Roy, who played Mark, was actually older than me.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, no, and I was like, I would, like I said, even though I went to film school and I had directed documentaries and this and that, you're not a movie maker until you made a movie. You just got to go through the fire. And it just was a lot of fire making this one. And like I said, just trying to explain to people what we were doing. Everyone was like, huh? You can't make a movie for 750 grand because the movie just before ours on the Big Island was Waterworld with Kevin Costner. And that was like the biggest budgeted movie in history.
Yeah.
So everybody thought, oh, if you make a movie, you got plenty of money. And, you were there. We did not have plenty of money. We were all living in that rundown plantation house,
Yeah.
and we bought an old Volkswagen to be able to drive everybody around, you know. So there was just all this stuff trying to piece it together. But by the time I finished that film, I was like, okay, I know what not to do.
Trial by fire.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I gotta tell
but
you something. I gotta tell you something before I forget, okay? I was just I was up at Kunoana recently. They just honored me and put me on their Wall of Fame. I'm one of only two owlies on the Wall of Fame. The other one's Shane Dorian. Uh, and while I was there, I was talking to some of the coaches and stuff. And there's a new coach that just came from the mainland. His name is Mark Thompson.
like
When he introduces himself, everybody busted up laughing, and he didn't understand why. Poor guy.
he's like, why did I say my name like that?
The poor guy, he's forever branded.
Yep.
You've
Awesome.
heard about so many funny things. There's there's a place I think on the North Shore that they have a grilled cheese sandwich called the Mark Thompson because it's white and cheesy.
And I gotta look out for that.
So
That
there's all
that's
kinds of stuff like that every now and then, even when I've been out surfing before, someone drops in and like, oh, bro, don't be a Mark Thompson. I just crack up, where it's gone and all these different lines that show up. Some of them are your lines that you just made up.
yeah. And that was one of the cool things was that you kind of allowed me to play, but then you knew when to kind of reel me in if I was going a little too much, a little too ham. And that's good. I like that. I like being directed, but I like having that kind of freedom to play, especially with local humor.
Yeah.
And so that was always fun to kind of play. I remember after a while, your note to me, you just called to me and go, BKL. And I was like, got it. I knew exactly what you meant. And so yeah, that was such fun to play.
Yeah. Well, you did that range, smoking too much weed and starting to see kind of the darker side of him. You did that really well. And I think because you're a comic, you get cast often for comedy, but you've got range and depth. I remember when you got in Roy's face and yelling at him, and it's believable. You're definitely there. And that was kind of based upon another friend of mine that I grew up with. Cal was kind of a combination because the guy that I mentioned before, who's kind of the comedy guy, he wasn't a stoner at all. He was not at all that way. But I had another friend, a guy named Jason Mao, that I grew up with from preschool all the way up to high school. And he was just smoking the Pacololo more and more and more. And he's a good looking Hawaiian guy. Eventually, he didn't care. His fingernails were going long. He wouldn't wash. He didn't care about girls anymore. And I just watched him just kind of go, you know. And then some of the friends around him that he was hanging out with, some of them passed away, took their own life, OD'd. I just was watching it go down. And so that was that character, that aspect of that character that you played. That you get that when they challenged you with the boys, we get hints of it in the film at the very end, like where they're talking to you, kind of challenging you. So yeah, so I just saw what that lifestyle can bring, and you played that awesome.
And you don't have to say definitively that, but of course everybody since the movie ever came out is like, oh, you guys gotta make a sequel. And I used to joke like now, I was like, yeah, I think we kind of old already. Like you know what I mean? But people still have an interest in these characters and kind of seeing where they ended up. Is that something you've entertained? Um, like a
Yeah, no, I've
follow-up.
I've more than entertained it. I've written the storyline, and would love to make it. And it's the kind of thing that I feel like in order for it to get made, we'd probably have to crowdfund it, and get the fans behind it. And because it would have to, from an economic standpoint, it would have to work in probably Hawaii alone, and so if the fans want to get behind us, and I'll do it, and I'd love to. And I have just kind of some hints, is that I really want to pull in some current day issues, like the main one being priced out of paradise, because of my three friends that I based this on, only one of them is still living in Hawaii, and he just came back fairly recently, and they're working in the mainland in factories and on the docks and stuff, and that just breaks my heart because their goal is to one day be able to retire back home.
Right.
And I just look around at our leadership in Hawaii, and it's just so disappointing. And there's all this chatter about, this and that from our politicians and our leaders. And so I want to bring that in to the sequel. And I got to weigh in on that. I don't want to give a spoiler, but I think it's time, to say something and challenge our leaders to do better for their people.
Oh, they hear you heard it right here, folks. There's a chance. It was like that movie, the Dumb and Dumber. You're telling me there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance,
No,
David.
there's more than a chance. I mean,
Oh,
if
more than see.
if you guys can get behind us with a crowdfunding campaign, and we'll make it. And
Wow.
I know the cast would love to do it. And like I said, I got the way in from a script standpoint, and get behind us, people.
Yeah. Beyond Paradise 2.
Hana
So
Hope, that's the title.
Yeah, that's the working title. Working title.
Working title.
And like I said, I appreciate your time. Is there where can we find any of your other work? Is there any projects that we can look forward to? By all means, please let us know.
Yeah, I'm just putting it up. It's I don't know when you're going to be putting this up, but pretty soon I'm gonna have a website up, davidlcunningham.com, just my name.com, and we'll have the links to all the different shows that I've done. Um, I've got a Christmas special that I did that just came out with Kevin Costner called Kevin Costner's First Christmas, and it's on Hulu and Disney Plus, and so that's out right now. But the last film I made in Hawaii is called The Wind and the Reckoning. Uh, this one behind me here, and that one you can get on Amazon or Apple TV. And we did that during COVID and with Jason Scott Lee, and very proud of that one as well. And then we did another one a few years before that, also on Big Island, called Running for Grace. And that takes place in the 1920s, Big Island. You can get that one on Apple TV, and I think it's Amazon as well. But pretty soon you'll be able to see, because I get asked a few times, where can I see other stuff? So I'm gonna just throw them all on one website.
Oh, nice. And then they can just click on and check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Right on, right on. And I got to watch The Wind and the Reckoning with my daughter, which was kind of cool. Me and her going out and watching the movie together. So we enjoyed it and we had a good time. So yeah, we just
Good.
want to let you know we had fun watching that one.
Awesome. Thanks for seeing it.
No, no, absolutely. And again, like I said, I appreciate your time, David. I know you're very busy, so thank you for taking time out, talking story. Um, and yeah, by all means, hopefully we can do this again. Um, and stuff because there's so much to talk about. That was such a awesome experience, even though there was the a lot of behind the scenes stuff that was going on. Like I said, you we could not tell even with the budget. I walked onto that set going, wow, like I was that first time on set, like, wow, this is a real movie. So and I always have that experience as we all will, all of us who got a chance to be in it. So thank you for that for sure. And again, thank you for your time.
Yeah, you bet. And thanks, Daryl, for having me. And thanks for doing this and keeping Beyond Paradise alive and hopefully inspiring. And like I said, talk to your fans. Let's do it again, Hanaho.
We'll do Hana Ho, brah. Hana Ho.